Hey, what's up? Steven here from Powell's Power Ups. This is the overview video for the Korbanth sabers, Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Phantom Menace lightsaber. I don't know what year edition this is. I guess 2023. I don't know if they've had other editions or not. But anyway, just wanted to clarify. So here's your overview video for the chassis. I'm going to walk you through everything that's included, what goes where, and the steps of how you should do the installation. First thing that you're going to need to do is fully disassemble your lightsaber, which I have done here. If you don't know how, let me know. I can walk you through that as well, or I can talk you through it. Anyway, disassemble it. Let's go over the first piece. This is the emitter. Right, so this is going to go up where the blade kind of connects to it, and then you're going to have your buttons, and then you're going to have a PCB on the bottom for connecting to your removable chassis. So the upper section here, where it's a little bit thicker, there's lots of gold. This is where you're going to see your emitter. You know, when you look down into the lightsaber, a version 3 stock NPXL connector fits up here. Okay. Get it wired up, get your wires running out through the bottom. Next up, you'll do your tactile switches. There's 2 of them. I include them. You'll get your wires on them. You'll run them down run the wires down through these little gaps here, which will send them out the bottom. Use a little E6000, and you're going to glue these tactile switches down in place right in the center of those square holes. Just get them centered. It'll look like that. Right, so there's 2 of them. We have one here, and then you'll have all your wires running out the bottom. Now, something I don't have here that I'm not able to show you that you're going to need for this to make the chassis removable, you'll need to go to Etsy. You'll need to go to the Smuggler's Outpost and get their 14 pin, not 16, 14 pin connector PCB set. So you'll wire up all your wires to the pin side is what I recommend, the pin side pad, and then that will go into place. So this will all be fully installed before you put it in the lightsaber. You'll have your blade connector, 2 tactile switches, and then your pin, 14 pin PCB right here. So then what you'll do is you'll insert it through the emitter, right? You'll want to make sure you do it very slowly and patiently. Make sure you get your tactile switches and everything lined up. And I say this because it's very snug and it's hard to turn and make adjustments. See how it's not lined up there, but here it is. It's hard to make adjustments once it's in because it's so snug. I made it snug because I don't want it moving around. So, and then also, once you got it lined up as far as the switches go, before you push it down, you want to push it down to a certain length or a certain depth. You can go ahead and screw this ring on. And then whenever you insert your blade plug, it will push it down to the perfect depth of where it should set. So I'm just going to see how much is sticking out there. I'm going to push it into right there. And then I'm going to remove the blade plug. On the back side here is a little set screw. And you'll use that set screw to tighten down against the piece we just inserted so that it doesn't move. Right? We don't want the chassis pushing it up. We don't want blade pushing it down. So this is a big reason why you need to disassemble your hilts so you can get to that set screw. You should be able to see, the way you'll know you have your the piece here at the appropriate depth, you should be able to see the bottom of it. So then when you have a blade plug or your blade in or no blade in, it will illuminate right here, which will illuminate the clear pieces when these are in. So these will light up. So it kind of sits just under that. Alright, so if you get it in there and you can't get it back out, maybe you need to readjust it, turn it, or something like that, you're going to need something long enough. So I got this long flathead screwdriver. You're going to need something long enough to go up into the hilt, and you're gently going to find where it is and push it back out like that. Anyway, so that's the first piece. Not too complicated. It'll look really good once you get it put in. Once you have this piece in, you can begin to fully assemble your hilt again. So I'll actually reverse assemble it. I guess we'll kind of show you and help you know how to unassemble it. It should anyway. Let me pull the camera up a little bit higher. So once you have this piece inside, first piece to go on, and by the way, I'm in the midst of polishing this. I have some Wenall polish. I'll show you later. I'll send you a picture of what it is. These hilts can get so full of fingerprint smudges that you have to polish them up, and I found a really good polish that someone referred to me. So you're going to slide that down. You're going to kind of get it in place, mostly in place. You're going to begin to screw in these. I would recommend gluing in the little clear things that go in them before you screw them in. Don't glue them in while they're in here because you don't want glue to leak through to your blade plug or blade. By the way, also, these are not the easiest to grip because, you know, there's no way to grip them. So I recommend using a pickle jar opener. It's like a little circular rubber grip thingy. I'll have one here. I'll show you in a minute. You can get them on Amazon or at Walmart. And I like to use those to grip all kinds of lightsaber parts that I can't really get a grip on. This one's being a pain in my butt. This always happens to me on camera. Okay, I got it. Let me get that. This is a really old one and it's torn in half. It's torn in half, as you can see, but it's just a rubber pickle jar opener. But you can use this to tighten up stuff like this that you can't normally grip. I don't want to get them too tight though. I want you to be able to get them out. I guess I'm used to installing sabers and I try to make stuff tight so that it doesn't come loose when this customer's playing with it, because it happens. Alright, so I didn't tighten them up super tight so that you can get them out. I can still do it with my finger. They're just finger tight right now. Also, gloves help you kind of grip. So you screw those in. You can screw the ring back on if you want, on top. There you go. Then you can screw in your switches. Yes, these are, they come out. They kind of like big old thumb screws, but they're plungers at the same time. Now the bottom little plunger piece you see right here screws into the lid. So again, use a pickle jar opener because you can't, there's no way to tighten that. Try to tighten it. Make sure it stays tight. I think red goes on the left. So they just kind of screw in. I won't get them too tight. And then same thing here. So this one's an even more complicated one. That purple clear piece is actually a screw that screws into the plunger on the inside. I took these apart so I would know how to put them back together and tighten them up, because they were actually kind of loose. Then you screw that one in. Yeah. Alright, so we got those. Now we're going to slide on this shell part right here. Right? Now, there is the CoverTech wheel, which is also a thumb screw, is going to go here. But you're not going to tighten it in yet. You're just going to kind of get it in place. Because that tightens against this inner piece. Let me polish it up real quick. Like I said, I was in the middle of polishing this from all my fingerprint smudges. So if you start to build a lightsaber collection, obviously lots of lightsabers are made with this high shine aluminum and copper and brass and all these other metals. This stuff you can get on Amazon is a metal polish, Wenall. Works on, it cleans and polishes brass, copper, silver, gold, stainless steel, chrome, etc. This stuff is great. You just put it on with a Q-tip, it gets kind of crusty, and then you literally just buff it back off. Like this is an old t-shirt, and I'm just kind of buffing it up. I wear the gloves, so I'm not getting any fingerprint smudges on it. So then we're gonna slide, so the thicker end here Goes inside first. And as you see, there's a gap. We got to get that gap at the bottom. Loosen up this. Get the gap at the bottom. See how there's a, we want to make sure we get that just right. Check the other side. You actually don't need to disassemble the bottom. I'll reassemble it for you. Then I tighten down this. So you actually, yeah, let me go back on that. When you do your chassis installation, you really only need to disassemble the top, which all comes off up here. You don't really need to do anything down here to the bottom. Now the pommel though is different. I'm about to go over the pommel with you. Actually, I'll save the pommel, which is right here. I'll save that for when we get to the chassis. All right, let's get back to the chassis. So we went over the upper section. That's kind of phase 1. Phase 2 is your crystal chamber. Okay, so you have the pin side of the 14-pin PCB. Up here, you're going to want the pad side here. So these are 2 pieces. I've already glued them together using E6000, which is what I recommend using. You got 4 copper rods. The 2 middle ones, I'll also polish these up. You can also use the Winnow polish on that. The 2 middle ones are for our wire channels. To have all your wire, you got your switch wires, switch ground, data line, positive and negative, data line going to the pixel that sits in here. Those will run down through the tube. The outer ones are just structural, connecting the crystal chamber together, making it solid so that when I squeeze it together, these don't slide down. So those are for structural purposes. But there's 4, right? 2 pixels will fit the the little single pixels. They'll fit 1 in the bottom, 1 in the top. I recommend getting your wires on them before you put them in place, and use a little E6000 on the little. There's a little lip in there. Use a little E6000 and glue them in place. Now I don't have a crystal for you, but this is the crystal I recommend. I'll send you pictures. There's resin printed crystals that Saber Bay sells. I recommend getting 2 of them. It's like they're cut in half, and you'll use the flat side on the bottom, and you'll glue that on top of the pixel, or just maybe not glue on top, but just on the sides, But you'll have 1 crystal here. You'll have another crystal like here that goes on top of the pixel. So pixels go in first, and then the crystals, and then it'll look like you got 2 crystals like that. It'll look really great. Again, I'll send you the links to the crystals that I'm talking about. They should be the perfect size to fit right down in there over the single pixels, 1 on each side. So then you got so that's the second phase. You got your whole crystal chamber built with your pixels, your crystals glued inside, your PCB. Now you got all your wires coming out the bottom, right? So next phase is to run all of those wires through your wire channels on your chassis, which go to the Profi board tray right here. So as you run those through, once you get them all almost ran through, then you'll use a little E6000 on these 4 little areas right here, right? Be generous, it's okay. And then you'll glue these 2 sections together. You'll just use your fingers and get it as tight as you can. You'll let them set for a day. E6000 takes a good 24 hours for it to really be solid. But once it's solid, it's really great, and it's still easily removable without leaving any kind of resin behind or breaking anything. You can do it this way, this direction, if you want, where the crystal's facing up. Or you can flip it around, and you're going to have some accent pixel strips here. You could maybe have the crystal on that side. Totally up to you. Anyway, so that gets glued on there. Right, now you got all your wires here and everything for your. I'm going to pretend this is on here, but I'm going to set it down for the video. So now you got your Profi board tray. So now you can wire up everything to your Profi board. A version 2 or 3 will fit in here. And then on the flip side, you got 2 areas for size 2020 mini pixel strips. The short ones, which I believe are 10 pixels long, will fit in here. You'll use a little E6000 again on the back of them to glue them down in place. There's a little slot there, you can see it, for the wires to come up through right here to your Profi board. Once those pixels are in place, you have some little strip covers that are going to sit on top, you can glue those in place using E6000. I gave you 2 of them. One's a little more weathered than the other, but I give you extras in case you break it or something like that, or lose it or whatever. But that'll be glued over those pixels. And what I did was, when I painted this, I obviously painted the top, but when I painted the bottom, I only painted the edges and the middle to kind of block the light, because I used a little bit of a clearish black resin so that the pixels will shine through this, and it'll light up all these little vent looking things, so you'll be able to see your pixels. So you got 2 of those. Once you get your pixels glued down in place, wires ran, then you can use a tiny bit of E6000 on this, and then you can glue this in place over the top of those pixels, just like that. Okay. Kill switch will fit right here in this big section. It's pretty snug. I already tested it. I'll show you. You don't need, I don't think you need any E6000 to glue that in place, but it'll push all the way down and in. Yeah, it's pretty snug. Really snug. I put one in there earlier. Anyway, your kill switch fits there. Every brand is different. If you need to, use a little file and sand it out a little bit if you need to. But your kill switch will go in there. Your wires will run, you know, from the bottom of it will be up in there. I kind of want to put this in now that I said I was going to do it. Let me try a different one. Here we go. Here's one. Oh, there it goes. Yay! See a nice flush, low profile, clean look on and off, right? You obviously snip those. You don't need them that tall. And then the next section to talk about is the battery section. This holds a, what did I do with it? I had one. It holds one of these. These are also from, I think I sent a link to these already. 18350 from Sabre Bay, keep power, 1200 milliamp hour. We did a little battery so that we could, you know, have more room for other things like the crystal chamber and a 28 millimeter speaker. Could have done a bigger battery if we would have made something else smaller, but we like loudspeakers and crystal chambers, so batteries, you know, gotta shrink that down. Battery goes in here, right? You get your battery tabs. You'll need to solder your wires onto the, you need to run your wires, I recommend using PTFE 22 gauge. Run them, this is that little circle right there is the connects to this wire port. This wire, not a wire port, what am I trying to say here? It all runs together right here. My brain is fried. So run your wires, it's easier to go this direction and then pull up here. Then wire up the tabs. Then you'll put them in place like so. You'll pull the slack back out so that they don't move. And then you'll lean them forward a little bit like that, like with my finger. And then you'll put a little glob of E6000 on the back here. Same thing with the positive, and you'll put them in place. And then you'll go ahead and pop in the battery, which will kind of push against those pads and hold them in place as that glue dries, right? So that's your tabs that go in there. Like I said, they just glue to the back using E6000. It works fine. I've been doing that on lots of Sabres, again, to save room for other things. On the bottom, 28 millimeter speaker fits on the bottom. Got one around here somewhere. Here's one, Smuggler's Outpost. This is the dark side one. 28 millimeter speaker fits in there perfectly. Now, to make this 28 millimeter speaker fit in this Sabre, the inner diameter of this section of the pommel and the hilt is like 24. The only 28 millimeter section, if you unscrew the very bottom, again, pickle jar opener if you can't get it. This section down in here is 28 millimeter, right? So, and it actually comes apart if you didn't know. These two halves unscrew, and it's two halves. like that. Now this piece here, the silver things, this is free floating, and we don't want this to spin. So as you're installing this and you get it all done and put together, I'd recommend a little E6000 on there. Once you get it in the, rotate it, get it where you want it, and then glue it so that it doesn't spin. Because if you spin this, it'll scratch this. So anyway, the speaker, what did I do with it? The speaker section fits in here. You can see it from the bottom. And then you put this piece over. Screw them together. Make it tight, and this is kind of holds your chassis. Right? And then this is what slides up inside. Like so. Look at that. Beautiful. Now, if you want to, though, if you need to change your battery, oh, that's not tight. I need to tighten that down. If you want to change your battery, obviously you can't with the pommel covering it, so that's when you would need to unscrew this and take this off over the top. That way you could access the battery. Let's see, I actually noticed I have this backwards. Hold on. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have this backwards. You want the fat part, not the skinny part. Not the skinny, but the fat part going towards the bottom. Let me polish it up again now that I pulled it out and touched it. Probably need to try to clean on the inside of the hilt too. Get it polished up for you. There we go. Yeah, there we go. I got it. Yeah, it's in there now. All right. What was I doing? Or you could get to where you just leave this part permanently on, and instead of unscrewing it, you only ever unscrew this section, which would fully remove your chassis. So let's say we got it together. Right, it would just go in and out like this. But again, you don't want to spin this and not the bottom, so that's why I would recommend gluing this so that you could just grab those and rotate. Yeah, there it is, man. That's your chassis. If you have any questions, need any support for anything, just let me know. Oh, I forgot to show you. Also, so it's obvious, once you get your Profi board in here, you have your wires from your pixel strips, you have your wires from your kill strips, you got your wires from your battery tabs and speakers. There's going to be a lot of wires and a lot of stuff going on in this compartment, which can be kind of ugly. We want to cover that up, so that's why you also have wire covers. Now I made these to where they kind of cover up and hide all of that, but they're not the easiest to get in and out frequently, so I would recommend finishing the install, getting your board configured how you want it before putting this in. Wait until it's in shelf queen mode, but then you'll take the covers and you get your Profi board as low as you can. That way these covers can go in. They just press in just like the Profi board over the top. And again, I gave you two of them. One's a little more weathered than the other, but I gave you two in case you break or lose one. So this is like, I guess, what your chassis will look like. Crystal chamber, got accents here. I'll show you these accents up close. Focus. It's painted in the antique gold like you requested. Also for your battery, I would recommend getting one of the little battery wraps so that again it looks like an actual lightsaber component, not just a battery. But this is your chassis. Let me move all this. So essentially, this is what it's going to look like on the inside. Like that. So again, if you have any questions, if you need any help, you know, about the install or anything at all, just reach out and let me know. And just a bit of a disclaimer too, resin printed chassis are not as tough as PLA, like the regular filament printers. Resin allows us to get all these details, but that comes at a cost. Sometimes resin is a bit more brittle. Like if I were to drop this on the ground, you know, like just like not on my desk, it'll probably be okay on the desk. But if I were to drop it like out here on the ground, there's a good chance it could crack or break or chip. They chip too. There's like a brittleness to them. They're not indestructible. So handle with care, go slow, take your time, give yourself plenty of time to do the install. And if you want to get this cover back out, see the little gap? I leave a little gap in there so you can get a nice thin pair of tweezers in there. Just pry it up a little bit, take your time, then you can pull it off. So yeah, you'll get your you'll get the covers, all the covers, battery tabs, switches, crystal chamber, chassis, and I'll send your lightsaber back nice and polished for you. Alright, next let's go over the Kylo chassis.